Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session with your host, Michael Rearden.
I'm not sure if you realize yet, but we are in company with both life and death all the time. Whether you like it or not, most people think that they are only in touch with life, right? I am who I am. I'm my being. This being feels good, right? I'm not worried about death. And yet many people don't even think about it. They don't even think about retirement. They don't think about the moment when they're no longer here. They think about the moments that they are here. They dream of the good things in life, the prosperity and the abundance. And those are all great things to look at. But the reality is one day death is going to knock on our door. We want to consider it that. And they're going to say, come with me. Now, some people might reach a point in their life that they're ready for death. Maybe they have seen too many of their loved ones die. Maybe they're up in the age and they don't want to necessarily worry about the pain that they're feeling anymore. So they say, I accept death. But when it comes to the youth, the young ones in the world, right? Even our midlife crisis people, right? So we can think of 30, 40, 50 years old. And we can see these individuals saying, hey, I don't want to die. I want to embrace life. There's so much more for me to live. And rightfully so, there is so much more for you to embrace. But many people don't even embrace life every single day. Why is that? Why would someone wake up every single morning, hit the snooze button, waste time? Why would someone every morning go to a job that they hate? Why would someone wake up and do the same things that they did the day before and know that they're going to get the same results they got previously, and they're going to wonder why they don't have good in their life, right? That life is as close to death as anyone else. But many people, they forget to live, right? To try new experiences, to do the things that fill you with joy and give you a sense of meaning. Most people are just kind of on autopilot and they fail to understand the small things that add up to the big things. When you're a parent, it's quite evident that you are more in the moment than you are if you are not a parent. Now, I'm not saying that you can't train yourself to focus on meditation, to focus on living in the moment. But when you have a little one and they're full of life and they're running around and they're doing all of these different things and things that are dangerous, you're like, oh my God, I got to make sure this child is able to live long, that they're so full of life. There's, everything is new to them versus for us, it's like we know better. We know not to jump in the puddle. We know not to climb a tree and to do backflips off it. And almost like, do we know how not to live again? So all of the things that are going to be present at the youth stage is something that we learn as adults that are, it's not appropriate, right? So now our life is now more compact. We are doing the things that are almost the bare minimum. We need to go to work. We need to sleep. We need to eat. We need to do all of those basic needs of what the body needs, right? But guess what? Do we live? Do we smile? Do we look at the sky? Do we journal? Do we understand ourselves? And one day we find ourselves at the end of the road and we regret all the things that we didn't do. Not so much of the things we did. This is challenging for people to understand, but I'm going to make it very clear. If you have had a death in your life, in your family that you had to experience, you are probably going to say, oh, I should have spent more time with them. I should have did this with them, right? I wish I was there more, because you can't be there anymore. But guess what's going to happen? A couple months, maybe a year or two, you're not going to have that same type of mindset because the person or the people that are around you still, are you spending more time with them? Are you saying that you love them? Are you doing all the things that you wish you did with the other person? Somewhere, somehow, we fall out of our routine. And we have to be reminded that, hey, we can embrace both life and death. And we should embrace them equally because, like I said, we're going to be dead longer than we're going to be alive. It might not seem like that's the case, but the reality is the people who have been in the ground 200, 300, 400 years, I doubt they live that long. So if we understand that we're going to be dead longer than we're going to be alive, it would probably behoove us to live our life more fully each and every day. So I get into this article here, today's topic, in company with both life and death. In this article, we talk about the things of what life is, we talk about what death is, and basically how both of them can come together to create something profound. Because oftentimes we think that life is all good, right? Life is going to bring about all of this, the journey of life, the hero's journey, but the ending can sometimes be ever so sweet. And I do want to go ahead and explain that. Now, I don't know if you have ever maybe watched a movie or a film and it was so good, you said, I don't want this to end. This typically doesn't happen with a movie at the house or a movie in the movie theaters. This happens with like a play. Like you go to a play, you go to an opera house or a symphony or something, and you experience it in person and you fall in love. Not so much of like butterflies and stuff, but like you become entranced and it feels so good. That feeling can maybe be equated to a massage. You know, you go get an hour massage and you're like, oh my God, this is heaven. I don't want it to end. Right? It could be that. But it comes to an end. And you think about it. You're like, oh man, that massage was so good. Oh, that play was so good. But then you give yourself a new concept now. Let's say that massage never ended. Let's say that play never ended. It was all good, right? But at some point, you would just become acclimated to that massage or to that play, and you might become bored with it. You might say, well, you know, I don't want this massage anymore. Like now my back is tender and it's caused me all these problems. And, you know, like you're annoying, you know, the masseuse is annoying now because it's like if someone kept poking you, right? Just kept poking you. Eventually you're going to lose it. Kept hearing the same thing over and over and over again. You might just lose it too. All right. It's like the song that never ends or something, or the most annoying song. If you keep replaying that song, it's like annoying. So yeah, right. It was good for the moment, right? It's like eating cake. Like cake is good for a moment, but you eat cake again and again and again. You're like, I'm done with sugar. I don't know if you've ever seen like a food competition where people have to eat like a bunch of donuts or a bunch of cookies or some pie or something. And it's like almost at the point where it's like, I don't want any more sugar. Like I'm done with it. And we know what sugar does to the brain. It's like the same stimulus as cocaine. So it's like, boom, like it's like, this feels good, right? This stimulus is nice. But at some point, the brain is like, I'm done. I don't want any more. The body's like, I don't want any more of this. So too much of a good thing can be something that, you know, we have to look at, right? Because you are trying to get all this goodness in your life, right? You're trying to get this massage, trying to get these sugars and the sweets, and you're trying to get all these wonderful memories and things like that. But when it ends, let's talk about that now. I was in Mexico last year in January for my honeymoon. My wife and I went to Rhythms of the Night in Mexico, Puerto Vallarta. It was an outdoor event, a show where they're doing Cirque du Soleil type of acts and things, or they're playing with fire and they're doing acrobats and they're singing and they're dancing and they're doing all these great things, right? We were there and it was a wonderful day, right? The weather was perfect. Everything was pristine. Well, during the play, I was thinking like, you know, this was a very nice experience. And even some thoughts of, you know, I want this play to keep on going on. You know, even though it's getting a little cold out, I was like, you know, I want this play to keep on going. But then I said, I think what's going to be most memorable about this play is not so much of being there, but remembering that I was there. So now I said, I want this play to end. Not so much because I didn't like it. I loved it. my wife and I still talk about it to this day because it's a memory. It's something that's gone. Now, of course, I can go back and I can experience the same play again. And it'll probably be more magical than ever before because I'm going to appreciate it just as much or maybe even more than I did the first time. I understand that the things that are fleeting can create memories that become the most fulfilling things in life. So I pay attention when things end. And it could be anything, right? It could be a job. It could be a relationship. It could be a moment like that Rhythms of the Night in Mexico, where it was so memorable. You're like, whoa, that filled me with so much meaning and it was so much fun. And regardless of whatever bad thing happened after that, you can look back at the good moments and say, well, those were good moments. Those were good times. It's hard to look at life for the good moments when we kind of do all the same routines. So it's not a routine for me to go to Mexico, right? Because then I would live in Mexico. It's not a routine for me to go to, take a boat and go into the forest for a show, for a private show. That's not what I do every day. The reality of my life is we wake up, we play with the kids, and we, do what we have to do as adults and parents. And we go outside and we enjoy nature. We love Texas and it's so much fun, right? It's the simple things. But then we give ourselves a little bit of spice here and there. And that's what I call life. And we just had an article talking about, or not an article, but a podcast episode where we talked about the sugar and spice type of thing for like a person. But in a sense, in life, that sugar and spice can be the same thing, right? That life of sugar, sweets, the good moments, and the spice maybe can be the bad moments, but then it can also be considered as the things that change it up. I don't know if you guys like any type of spicy food. Now, there's two types of spices in the world that I have figured out. One is hot and one is flavor. The one that is hot is annoying. The one chip challenge, for example. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of the one chip challenge or the gummy bears and that are super hot. The only thing those gummy bears and those chips do is hot. I'm going to make this thing as hot as possible, and I do not care about taste. So people who eat the one chip, they're like, oh, this doesn't taste that great. And sure enough, yeah, you're just eating something that's hot. But when you go to a restaurant and you try some type of chili spice or something, and maybe they mix it with, they infuse it with some jam or they infuse it with some honey or something else. Now we got some flavor going on, right? It's not so much about hot, it's about spice. Now I'm giving this some additional flavor. And in life, you might need that spice here and there. And typically that spice can be done in many different ways. You can have a kid, right? That can be the spice of your life. You can go on vacations, to places that you might not go, right? Traveling, hiking, things like that. That can add spice in your life. Skydiving, hot air ballooning, kayaking, river rafting. I mean, we can go down the list of things that, like activities that might add more spice in your life. Because sometimes when you are faced with death, right? Because I don't know if you have ever been on Category 5 rapids. They're no joke. And I remember when I went on them for my first time, instructor, he was my friend's brother. The only thing he said was, do not fall off the raft. Sure enough, when we saw the rapids and when we were walking up, and we were hungover too because we partied the night before. So definitely not a safe situation, but we survived. I'm here to tell you about that story. Those Category 5 rapids, you were just looking at them and they looked scary. I'm like, whoa, these things are atrocious. But I'm not saying we're veterans, but we were well versed in going on rapids. We have been doing it, I believe, 3 or 4 years prior to us doing those Category 5s. So we had plenty of experience on different rapids, and we basically would joke and have fun, and it was a good time, basically. But death was right there. We could have easily got dragged underwater. Our foot could have got stuck under a rock or something. And there's no way that anyone can save us, because guess what? All the boats are already down the stream. And you might get lucky and be able to get out, or something can happen. But there has been enough deaths with, rapids and things like that. There's deaths with skydiving. There's death with rock climbing, or even skiing or hiking Mount Everest, right? How many people die there every year? So there are so many things that can happen where you're trying to live life. Death is just right there, right with you, right? Because you never know. You could be walking across the street, living life, singing your favorite tune, and you're like, yeah, I'm singing my favorite tune, and boom, all of a sudden, car hits you, right? You're done, right? Death was right there, but you weren't paying attention to that so much, right? You were just living your life. You start to pay attention more when you know death is inevitable. It's right there. Most people, they get in their cars and they don't necessarily realize that they can get in a car accident that can end their life. So we're not necessarily worried about, getting in the car and going from our A to our B. But when we are rock climbing, we're like, oh my God, I'm afraid of heights. I'm going to fall, I'm going to die. But then you make it. You know what happens? Number one, you get stronger, right? Your mental fortitude strengthens because you just overcame something that was death to you. But then you also find some joy in what just happened. Invigorating, right? People call it thrill seeking, where it's like, I'm going to seek some thrill. I'm going to go find some meaning in life. And that meaning is good now and again. But understand that our life is not only comprised of all of these dangerous things that equate to life, because life is just truly living in the moment. Are we feeling who we are? Are we truly present in this time that we're in? Because if we're not, then we're just kind of allowing life to be, like a strainer, right? So straining all the water away. And so the analogy I'm going to use is, let's say you boil some pasta and you take the pasta, you put it in the strainer, and the water, which is the life, is draining away from the pasta, and the pasta is just your body, right? The water is just seeping out, and eventually all the water is going to be gone. And now the only thing left is your body, right? Life was just slowly dripping away, right? That was the purpose, right? But many people, they don't want their life to just slowly drip away. But yet every single moment, your life has been dripping away. And we have to figure out, are we going to give our drip some meaning, that life some meaning, right? Because that same water that's going down the sink, maybe we say, you know what? The analogy again is, instead of that water just kind of going down the drain and being useless, maybe I use that water for something, right? Maybe I use it to water a plant, give more life, right? More abundance, right? I use the water to clean something, right? And I'm not saying you should, right? This is just the analogy, right? I'm not saying use pasta water for cleaning, right? That doesn't make sense. I'm just saying how life can seep out to other things. When you're a parent, for example, your life of taking care of them, that creates meaning, right? It creates a new person, a new generation. And so you're spending your time, your life, raising this child for 18 years. And it might seem like a long time, but let me tell you, it's a very short time. It happens so quickly. You blink and you say, whoa, they're already grown. Now, you have no purpose again. You're coaching yourself out of a job. You're like, I gave myself purpose to take care of my kids and then, to do all these experiences. And if you're fortunate enough to still be married, yeah, now you can maybe go someplace with your wife or your husband and you can do these wonderful things and you can try to create life again. Your kids are always going to be part of your life, right? But now they're going to go off and go to college, maybe start their own family, become career orientated, and they're going to focus on their life for quite a bit, maybe about 5 to 10 years. And then at that point, if they have a good, strong mindset and they have an understanding of what parents are and what the responsibility for kids are to their parents, then we can maybe have a reunion later down the road. But many individuals today are either A, not having children, or B, disassociating themselves from their parents and their family. So I see it too often. It's something that I would like to see change, but again, I don't have a wand to wave, the changes that need to be changed in the world. So individuals just have to understand it or not make the changes, right? Either or. Death is going to be inevitable. Life is always going to be something that they can embrace or that they can just allow to seep away from them, just like the water from the strainer. Now, looking at this article once more in company with both life and death, we go into detail about the two, and we talk about the nuances of life, and we talk about the idea of death and how they can also bring good and bad. I do share some takeaways that you can implement today, or you can take away from this article, especially. The podcast episode is a little bit different than the article. If we look at the takeaways for the article, it's number 1, embrace life's impermanence. Number 2, face death without fear. 3, live boldly and fully. 4, let go of hesitation. And 5, make every moment count. Now, of course, these takeaways are going to be just for the blog. You can insert them in some areas of your life, but life is just so dynamic where I can't necessarily say, well, this bit of advice is going to suit you in all realms and aspects of your life, because the reality of life is it is ever changing and you have to be flexible, be able to pivot for the good and the bad. We talked about that, right? We want permanent, right? We want life to be permanent, but it's not going to become a reality for us, right? Life is something that's temporary. And we should start acting like it's temporary versus, oh yeah, I have all this time in the world. I'll do it tomorrow. Well, guess what? Tomorrow's not promised. And I know people think like, I'll do it later. I'll do it next week or next month or next year. But no one said that's going to come into reality. Of course, we can wish, we can hope, we can dream. You do have another day. And I hope you have many more days. I've said it before. The thing about life is it should be embraced. Every single day, you have a new opportunity to get up, to show up, to deliver something that only you can do. Because your touch, your finesse per se, is going to be something that the world wants to see, right? I want you to do good. I want you to go out and be loud. I want you to go make a difference. And the difference doesn't have to be large. It could be small. It could be just helping your neighbor. It could be just being a good parent, being a good citizen, just being a person that makes the world a better place. And that inevitably is going to make life more meaningful for the individual and then for everyone else around you. I can't tell you how many good people, good souls that I speak with, that I work with, that I know. And I'm just so happy that I'm with them. I'm so happy that they're around. I understand death one day is going to take those people from me, right? Those happiness things from me. But then again, I have to embrace that change. And I have to understand that those moments that I gained are moments that I can treasure. The moments that have ended, I understand that I can hold on to them. So the good things in my life, right? The vacations and maybe even materialistic things. Like I can say, remember that car that I had or that house that we had? And it was a lot of fun, right? It was a good time. But then at some point, I'm going to say, you know what? The things that truly matter, the things that I can embrace are going to be the things that are fleeting, right? We learn to love more quickly when we understand that time is the enemy. It's something that many pet owners know. Your cat, your dog, they have a shorter lifespan than humans. You might get 9 years, maybe up to 20 years with your pet, your loved one. And you might say, I don't want them to go. I want to love them. I want to cherish them. There's things that your pet does for you, good and bad. Number 1, it's going to love you unconditionally, right? To hopefully, right? And number two, it's going to get in the way from you being free and flexible most of the time. So you're trying to go on vacation. You got to think about your dog. You got to think about your cat. You're like, well, who's going to watch my cat? Who's going to watch my rabbit? Who's going to watch my dog? Or whatever it be, right? So you have to ask yourself, are you ready for the responsibility of what life entails? That means for all the obstacles, all the hiccups, all the good things, all the bad things. And then one day they will end. We are always in company with both life and death. Sometimes we can see it, sometimes we can't. I hope more people can begin to see their life and to understand that death is always right there peering at them. One day, you're going to be within my reach. Before that, I hope you embrace that life saying, hey, I'm with you right now. Let's go out and live. It's a concept many people don't truly understand. They wake up and they take it for granted. They go to sleep and they wake up and they take it for granted. When I can't tell you how many people I know, they go to sleep and they don't get another day. They don't get another moment. That's it. So today is an opportunity for you to wake up. And I'm not making it like a figurative thing, but wake up and understand that life is there for you to embrace and that life is there for you to live. And that one day death is going to come your way. So we don't need to fear it. Just understand it's inevitable. Things that are always sharing both life and death are always more impactful on the mind. So that means if you are going to do something dangerous, you're going to feel both life and death at the same moment, maybe. You're living. I remember when I went skydiving for the first time. Actually the only time. But I jumped out of the plane. And you get that falling feeling for a second. But then it feels like you're flying. Where you're just like focusing on everything that you got in your training for 10, 15 minutes before you got on the plane. And now you're jumping to your demise. Or are you jumping to invigorate your life? So now I'm up there and I'm just falling. And all of a sudden, the guy gives me the signal to pull the chute. I pull the chute and I'm like, the chute didn't open. And sure enough, it opened eventually, right? So I pulled it once and I pulled it twice. I'm like, this is not working. Well, either way. We are up in the air now, the parachute's deployed, and he's like, you want to do some loops? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm nauseous at this point, right? Because of the G-force or whatever. And I'm like, this is insane, right? Like, how often can you experience that feeling of falling to the ground that if you don't have something to slow down your fall, you're not going to make it? Well, we had the parachute, everything was good. We got to live, we got to feel the thrill of it all. And this was when I was living in Connecticut at the time. So I went to Massachusetts to do the skydiving. And after the skydive experience, I got off, everything, my butt hurt because I had to land on my butt or something. And then I was driving the hour and 15 minutes home. And let me tell you, that was the most peaceful drive I think I've ever had in my life. I wasn't worried about anything. I was like, I just overcame death, right? There's nothing else to worry about. I got to live, I got to experience death, and now I have a moment of serenity and of paying attention. I encourage everyone to check out this article once more. In company with both life and death, you're going to find so many great things that you can incorporate into your life today, where you can take the opportunity to say that life is more than just waking up and doing the things that I have to do on my to-do list. It's about living fully and living to my fullest, with death always right in the rearview mirror. And if you can do that, life's going to be so much more pronounced.